Is this boss rush game of the year for 2026? Honestly, for me, it might be. If you want a difficult, action-packed boss rush game with gorgeous pixel art graphics, extremely polished boss designs and mechanics, an interesting twist on combat, and a dark, heavy, but feel-good story, then look no further than Rubinite, developed by Cupdog Games and released on July 22nd, 2026. TLDR, go play this game. Without a doubt, this is one of my favorite releases of the year, if not my favorite. My name is Avery, welcome to Rubinite, the review. In Rubinite, you play as Ruby, a young girl who is part of a clan that has crimson eyes. These eyes allow Ruby to see the cores of the bloodstained enemies of this world and attack them directly, exposing the weaknesses of them. These bloodstained enemies are created by Alcina the Witch. Alcina massacred all of Ruby's clan and is hunting her down to get her crimson eyes. The crimson eyes will allow Alcina to create the Rubinite, which will allow her to be all-powerful if obtained under the Blood Moon. Ruby is tasked with defeating all of the bloodstained enemies on her way to confront Alcina with the help of her bloodstained ally, Roy, and her lizard companion, Wichiwi. Rubinite is a boss rush game, meaning there are no other combat scenarios in this game that are not related to a boss. There are plenty of story areas in this game, as anytime you beat the boss, you're going to go back to your main hub and it's going to unlock different areas that you haven't explored yet. This is going to bring up new areas, new story bits for you to uncover, and new dialogues with your companions. If you're a fan of boss fights like I am, then you have to play this game. Like, you don't have a choice. Go buy this game and boot it up now. Go. I'll be here when you get back. Don't worry. All right, now let's get into the review. First stop, combat. The combat in this game is really cool and has a really interesting twist that I wasn't expecting. You have your typical melee attacks which can be chained for a 3-hit combo. However, these aren't going to be doing a lot of damage on their own. Where the combat really shines is the focus strikes. Holding R2 will allow you to focus on the boss's core and build up marks on it. The closer you are to the boss, the faster the marks build up. You start out being able to put a maximum of 3 marks on the boss. At any point after putting marks on the boss, you can hit L2 to do a critical strike attack. This is going to be your big damage ability. The more marks you have on the boss, the more damage you're going to do. The caveat, if you get hit at any point after having marks on the boss, you lose the marks. However, there is a caveat to the caveat. Focusing on a boss and hitting a perfect dodge when they attack you is going to immediately mark them, so you get to skip the build process entirely and just get an immediate mark. This encourages you to really get the boss timings down so you can hit a bunch of perfect dodges in a row and build up marks very quickly. You will inherently get good at this, as the bosses really don't give you a choice in this game. I was a bit hesitant with this combat system at first, but it really grew on me and now I love it. It just added a nice layer of combat to a game that could have just been a bunch of melee swings, dodge, etc, etc. Being able to fight the bosses over and over again, learning when to hit that perfect dodge, and just chunking their health with a bunch of critical strikes really made me feel like a god in this game. In Rubinite, you will also have a skill tree and talismans that you can equip. The talismans range from buffs like upping your attack power, your movement speed, mitigating poison and fire effects, to increasing critical strike range, and eventually allowing you to put up to 5 marks on a boss. The skill tree will have you increasing your attack power, increasing your health, and increasing the amount of health you get back from your potions, amongst more specific upgrades for the other critical strike attacks. Speaking of, there are other forms of critical strike attacks that you get to choose from. I stuck with the basic one for the vast majority of the game just because it's the one I ended up liking the most, but the other ones are pretty cool, like the explosive one. The explosive strike allows you to hit a critical strike and then holding L2 a little bit longer will detonate some explosives. This kind of ended up feeling like the talisman attacks from Nine Souls, which was really cool. Although, like I said, I ended up just choosing the basic critical strike attack just because it felt the best for me. Since it's a boss rush game, there's no level design to talk about, so let's talk about the art style instead. And simply put, this game is gorgeous. I mean, you saw the thumbnail. You can't tell me that's not an incredible shot. Each character, boss, and arena is just so beautifully designed in this game. I had several moments in my playthrough where I just kind of had to sit there and be amazed at how good it looked. 10 years ago, I never would have thought that a pixel art game could look this good. Next up, let's talk about the bosses. Banger after banger after banger after banger. This game simply does not miss. The game consists of 13 stellar boss fights. Each one is so incredibly designed and has its own unique identity. The mechanics of each one are so much fun to learn and very fun to experiment with different ways to defeat them. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm going to save that for the boss ranking video that's going to come up next, but I will say that I genuinely had a harder time ranking the bosses in this game than I have in any game I've played thus far. Now let's talk about the story. I briefly touched on it in the beginning and I'm not going to go into too much more detail because I really don't want to spoil it, but there is a massive plot twist about halfway through the game. And I'm not going to give more details details because it truly had me surprised, which is pretty rare nowadays, and I really want you to experience that blindly as well. But as far as the review, the story was really good. It was a pretty feel-good story with some really dark and heavy moments, some brutal moments, and some humorous moments as well. Overall, very well crafted. Now let's talk about the soundtrack. Because it's a boss rush game, obviously most of the tracks on the soundtrack are going to be related to the boss fights, and I really enjoyed all of them. I do wish some of them were longer. For instance, the first boss theme is really only 45 seconds long, but that's just me wanting more good music to listen to. Overall, a great soundtrack and worthy of a listen. You can purchase it on Steam or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music. Overall, joining the elite company of Death's Door, Rubinite is going to get a 10 out of 10 for me. I've seen some of the reviews and the discussions on the Steam forums, and I know there are going to be some people that disagree with me, but I do not care. This game is phenomenally crafted. It's got beautiful pixel art, a heartwarming and fun story with a pretty big twist, incredibly well-designed boss fights that are true ass beaters, and just a downright awesome combat system. I cannot recommend Rubinite enough. Cupdog Games, take a bow. You release an absolute banger of a game that is competing for my game of the year of 2026. And it's only August, so I haven't made a decision yet, but it's easily in the top 3 so far. But have you played Rubinite? What'd you think about it? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. And also make sure you like and subscribe while you're down there. And don't forget to follow us on Twitch and TikTok where we stream these games. But as always, stay safe out there. Peace.